The first thing I want to talk about is the lobby or the main entrance of the factory here. So if you've been watching my videos for a while, you might sense a recurring theme of that I am constantly changing the design of this hallway. I just can't seem to get a design that I've really liked until I finally did this. I changed the color once again. It is now cyan terracotta. But more importantly, I made this hallway about 40 blocks longer. When I was originally building this factory, I just messed up and I didn't give myself enough space from one end to the other to give a somewhat convincing effect that this hallway is shrinking. 40 blocks is a lot of blocks, so I don't know exactly where that would be, but it would probably be somewhere about here is where the original room ended. So if you think about the wall from this point being the end all the way back to here, that's really not a big hallway at all to get this effect to look somewhat good. I basically expanded this hallway, and it was actually a lot more work than you might think, because right on the other side of this door is the chocolate room. So I couldn't just make the hallway longer because it would mean that the chocolate room would be shorter because it would be protruding into here. So essentially what I had to do is I had to take the entire chocolate room and move the entire thing back 40 blocks. Now that wasn't impossible to do because I used Axiom to help me build this map, so it was relatively simple to copy the entire thing and to be able to just move the whole thing back. But what made it more difficult is that the majority of my factory is built underground, so I had to make sure I wasn't running into anything that I had built underneath the chocolate room or beside it. So that whole thing took me a solid day to get the logistics worked out. But I was able to eventually move the whole thing back, which gave me more space to make this hallway longer. So I think it looks a lot better now. It's a lot more close to the movie in terms of how long it is. When they first enter the room, you can see the door at the end, but it's quite far away. And now I think that is a pretty reasonable recreation I have. I also changed the roof design a little bit with these pillars, so they're a little bit more pronounced and more accurate to the movie. And I also changed the part in the movie that just looks like shadows. I used gray concrete to make it look darker, so it looks more like a shadow. And yeah, that's pretty much the main corridor, or the entrance corridor. I didn't make it any wider or anything like that, I just made it longer. So there's actually not really anything super noteworthy to talk about in the chocolate room itself. There have been a few small little changes, probably the biggest one being that the candy boat was redesigned. But I have pictures on my Planet Minecraft post of that, talking about it in more detail. The main thing that changed is actually the hallway leading out of the chocolate room, or into it, depending how you want to look at it. But in my last update, I talked about how I built a new corridor leading from there into this new hallway, and the original hallway was pretty much all white, and it was just one long straight hallway that gradually sloped downwards. And basically, as soon as I finished building that, I built it on a live stream actually, I just didn't like how it looked. So much so that I just deleted the entire thing and decided to build a new one. So now I replaced that with a spiral staircase here, like I have in a few other spots of the factory. But what this staircase leads to is a more impressive corridor, so I had to put the door in here still, but now it leads into this. Now this might look a little bit familiar, and that's because I based the design of this off of the shrinking corridor that we were just in, and I was just talking about. However, because I had much more room down here, I decided to make the whole thing just like 2 or 3 times bigger. And it also doesn't actually shrink, it stays one size for the entire thing. But you can see it's so long that I have my render distance at the 24 chunks right now, and you can't even see the other end of it. But it's not too much longer, so if you stand here, you can kind of see that, there's one end, here's the other. And you'll notice that there are doors that, take up the whole area here. So, there's various rooms here. Some of them were shown on stream. For example, the purple room, we'll just walk into real quick. We built this on stream. This is basically just similar to another room I have called the pink room. But this is a purple room themed to the color purple, obviously. So we built that on stream. I'm not going to spend too much time in there. Let's see, what was this one down here? That was the residence. That one's going to be a little bit of a surprise. This room down here is the fudge room. If you look at my videos on my channel, you'll notice I made a showcase video talking about this room in much more detail. So that's where this room is located. But perhaps the main attraction of this hallway are the Wonky Wonka bars doors. So actually there are 3 doors per side, and on this side all 3 of the doors are for the same room. And that's because the room on the other side is so large that one door doesn't really get you around well enough. But this room, as you might be able to recognize, is actually the opening credits for the movie where you're watching the chocolate bar being made. That is what this room is a model of. I had to use a huge amount of space to create this, but this is from the beginning here where the chocolate is being put into the mold. It goes underneath the cooling fans, and then we're just going to fly around to make this go a little bit faster. It's put into the press where it's turned into the actual finished chocolate bar. And then it goes up this contraption here that takes it up into the air, down onto the little balloons that go down in a spiral. Now the only thing that I do not have represented in here is the little packaging area where the wrapper is put on and they're put into a box. That will eventually probably get built, but right now that is not represented. It's just the room itself. But yeah, that is what I like to call the Wonky Wonka Bars room. I almost forgot to talk about this. So the inventing room. The inventing room went through a total renovation, almost being completely rebuilt from scratch. And this is certainly one of the largest things that we have done since the last factory update. However, I'm not going to spend too much time in here because I have a whole showcase video on my channel from, I don't know, like a month ago, something like that, where I talk about everything that was done in here in more detail. So I'm not going to make this video any longer by just going over that again. So if you want to see more of this room and more of the details about how it was changed, I just recommend you go watch that video real quick. Something that I've been doing over the last few months is going back and renovating old rooms that I don't like anymore. And that usually means it's the original creations I had that I built months and months ago. Because nowadays I sort of have a different philosophy for them where I want them to be bigger and, you know, more of a spectacle. And a year ago it was more about them being kind of small rooms and just trying to get as many built as I could. A good few of them still hold up, but some of them, like the jelly beans room, I really wanted to change. And I actually did this on a live stream, one of my more recent live streams, where we worked on completely redoing the jelly beans room. So originally the room, it was a similar idea, but I wanted it to make it more like an actual production area of the factory where we're actually making candy here. And I also wanted it to look very busy and very confusing. And I think that was really accomplished well. So the whole idea is that this ice funnel is taking the jelly beans from the jelly beanstalks room. If you watch on my channel, I have a showcase video for the jelly beanstalks room that talks about it in more detail. And they fall down from that room through here into this sorter. And then they get sorted off into different little containers. Right now, these tanks that are called bean sorters are just sort of placeholders. I eventually want to have a more elaborate looking contraption in the spot of these tanks, but I just wanted to get this room finished. So they go into the tanks, up through all these pipes, and then separately there's a conveyor belt that takes these chests up through some tubes, and then the jelly beans from the pipes are piped down through the funnels into the chests, which turn into colored boxes, and they go on this very elaborate conveyor belt system up and up through different types of elevators and through a bunch of different paths until they eventually exit the room to be shipped off all over the world. So I'm really happy with how this room looked. It's a very unique shape for rooms in this factory. I like to try to build with a lot of spheres, but this room is in a very awkward spot. So right above me here is the chocolate river, as well as on all the walls, and below me is a completely different room. So I couldn't really go any lower, I couldn't go any more off to the side or above. So I was able to make it work in the space I was given, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. So more of this is going to be coming in the future. Old rooms are going to be renovated into more grandiose looking rooms that are more enjoyable to interact with. Next up here is the nut room, and this is one of the most recent areas that was worked on. In fact, I believe my most recent live stream was where I did all the changes in here, and it mainly focused on the ceiling. These white rings here, these are lights in the movie, and originally, instead of having white concrete behind the glass, I had sea lanterns as a way to achieve the light effect. But a long time ago, I decided to get rid of all the light blocks like sea lanterns, stuff like that, with the invisible ones here. There was really no need to still have the sea lanterns behind the glass. I just kept putting it off and putting it off, replacing them. But in the movie, since this is supposed to just be pure white, it looks a lot better having white concrete behind there instead of the sea lantern blocks. So that's what I did. I replaced all of them with the white concrete. Now it looks a lot more accurate to the movie. Another thing I did with the stools here that the cats sit on, these are supposed to be the squirrels. The cushion on the stool is supposed to be a dark blue color like this. For some reason, I always had mine as white, so I replaced the white with the dark blue. The little tanks here that hold the nuts, I originally never had the glass that surrounded them, so I did that. I added the glass in just so it actually looks like a tank and not that the wood, which is supposed to represent the texture of the nuts, so it's not just floating in midair, so the tank is enclosing them. And then the last thing I did was I added in a very subtle slope into the garbage chute. So originally this lower level was not here at all, it was all one level, and it was just too harsh of a drop off. So in the movie it's a very subtle curve down into the garbage chute, so I just lowered the blocks by one level here, and I think it looks a lot better now. But that was pretty much it for the nut room. Not a whole lot has changed, but still something since the last update. So other than working on the exterior, the other area that I spent most of my time since the last factory update has been on the elevator ride scenes. What we're looking at right now are the exterior of the nut rooms. We were just inside that one. And that's where you would normally get on a minecart to start your glass elevator journey. And the track on this side right here is the one that leads you through all the scenes you see in the movie, like Fudge Mountain, the exploding candy room, and then it eventually takes you to the TV room. But the other track on this side I built with intentions of having that go off into my own area of the factory with my own creations and that sort of thing. So up until maybe 2 months ago, this track led to nowhere, but I spent a lot of time, and I'm currently still spending a lot of time, expanding off into that wing of the factory. So we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes. But I did make one change to this side of the track where you would normally go to get to the TV room like I was just talking about, and that is with the Fudge Mountain room. The Fudge Mountain room itself is this ice dome, and then to make up the interior of that, it's a secondary white dome on the inside, because in the movie you don't actually see the walls of this room. It just looks like a bunch of white clouds. That's not really practical to recreate indoors in Minecraft, so I made a compromise by just making the walls of the dome white. So the ice dome actually surrounds it, so you don't see the white from the outside really, unless you're really looking for it. However, originally I didn't actually have this entire dome even modeled like it is now. I originally had this wall right here just go straight across through this support, and it cut it off right here. So you actually only saw the front facade of the dome, just because I thought it would be easier so I didn't have to have the whole thing modeled back here and have it look all nice and pretty. But after a while I thought it kind of looked lame only having the front half of the dome represented. I decided a while ago to actually remove that wall so you can see the entire thing in its full glory, I guess. That actually also meant I made the dome itself about 25 blocks wider, and then allowed me more space to add in more of these little tower things. I have no idea what they are, but I had more space, so I put some of them in. And then also because I basically had to expand this black box, I'm actually going to turn the lights up real quick so you can kind of see. It kind of ruins the illusion, but it's easier to tell. So since I had to make this box bigger, it allowed me more room to put in more of the supports and pipes you actually do see in the scenes in the movie. So I was able to put them in their correct locations, as well as a few more of the little Oompa Loompa huts. And the whole thing just looks a lot better now that it's bigger. And on the inside, I actually rebuilt the entire Fudge Mountain itself. My old one was a lot smaller. It didn't take up the whole area down here, so I deleted it, and I used Axiom to create a new mountain in a more accurate shape to how it looks in the movie. So I'm much happier with how the shape of this one turns out. And I also decided to not cover the entire thing with snow. Like in the movie, you do see some of the brown from the top, so you can actually tell that you're looking at a chocolate mountain and not just a white mountain. If it was up to me, I would have the entire room basically enclosed with mountains, but in the movie, the mountain only comes up to the elevator itself. It doesn't really go above and beyond that. So I tried to make it look as best I could. It's kind of clunky looking because in Minecraft you see the whole area, and with the movie you only see like very specific shots that they wanted you to see, but I think it looks pretty good. And then we are eventually going to add in snow effects, so it looks like it's snowing inside of here as well. But that is the new and improved Fudge Mountain. Nothing else for the rest of the elevator ride has changed though. Alright, so going back to the nut room, if you decide to take the other elevator track, you'll come down this way, drop down, and instead of dropping down and going to the right, which takes you to the fudge room, you'll drop down and just go straight. And this is the start of my new expansion. This is kind of my own creation. None of this is shown in the movie, but I wanted to put it in to just give you more areas to go to on the minecarts instead of only going to the TV room. The scene you're looking at right now is actually based off of a concept art image for the movie. If you Google Charlie and Chocolate Factory concept art, you'll eventually come across an image that looks pretty close to this. And I really liked it because it's a very big open area. It's not really a room itself. It's just a very wide open area of the factory underground where they have a bunch of machines just kind of suspended in the air. And since this area is so dark, they had these machines here a very nice bright color, so it really popped in the darkness. So I tried to recreate that, and I was very happy. I'm very happy with how this turned out. Right now I only have them on this side because this is the only image from the concept art is them off to the left. But eventually I'm probably going to add them off on this side as well, just so there's more stuff for you to look at. Eventually when I continue this elevator track further, there are other concept art images of the elevator ride that were not used in the movie. So there are quite a few things that I have planned that I want to add into this expanded wing of the factory, just so there's more cool things for you to see and experience. So you eventually go through here, and you're greeted with another big sphere. Now this is very similar to the Fudge Mountain one, and that was kind of the idea, is I wanted you to be greeted upon some like very large object. So I have this room. The way you get into it is the minecart comes through here. Eventually this will be cleaned up a little bit so it's not quite so clunky and Minecraft looking right here. This kind of takes you out of the immersion a little bit, seeing this kind of stuff. So this will be cleaned up eventually, but right now we're actually inside of one of these pillars. And that leads you to this room. So the Rocky Road room, this is the room that I was talking about at the beginning of the video that I've never shown before, that I'll be showing for the first time today. So this is obviously one of my original creations. Originally this was actually located somewhere else in the factory, but it was totally different. It was one of the very first original rooms I ever made, so it wasn't very good. So I decided to get rid of it, and I put it over here, and it's much larger, and it's a completely new idea. And my idea for this was I wanted to have a space room, but with a candy theme. So that's what I built. If you're not familiar, Rocky Road is a very popular flavor of ice cream that has chocolate, peanut butter, like white candy kind of mixed into it. That's what the whole room is based off of. It's basically a road, literally, made of Rocky Road ice cream. and your objective for it is you start here and you walk the entire path. It's kind of like a challenge, like sort of like an obstacle course, until you get to the top of the room, which you then continue on the rest of your journey with the elevator. There's actually a corridor on the other side with a few other rooms, but the main purpose of it is that you continue your elevator journey onto other areas of the factory. But yeah, talking more about this room, these are supposed to be planets made out of different types of candy, different colored candy. The white and blue things are little stars that are supposed to be twinkling around. And yeah, you're just pretty much going to be walking this entire path up to the door up there. This actually it's a longer path than you think. Looking at it, it will take you probably like 4 or 5 minutes to get from one end to the other. But I just think it's very much in the stylization, and it's very Wonka-esque. It doesn't really make sense. Like, why would someone have this in a chocolate factory? And you can say that about a lot of the stuff in a Wonka factory. So I think it really fits the style quite well. I had a lot of fun making it. I'm really happy with how it turned out. This is kind of the scale and idea I have going forward for more of the original rooms. Originally they started out being pretty small, but I just wasn't really happy with them. So this room itself is about 200 by 200 because it's a sphere. Yeah, that's kind of the idea I have going forward for the rest of the rooms. So if you like this, I think you'll be pretty pleased with the other stuff we have going forward that have never been shown before. Well, that's pretty much gonna do it for this factory update. I know it was really long, but I hope some people found it informative and entertaining at the same time. And I'm kind of busy right now, but whenever I have time, I'll try to do some more live streams. I really enjoy doing those, and making some more showcase videos in the future. Something else I've been sort of toying with the idea of making a Discord server just dedicated to this build specifically. You know, it would be nothing else, like not broader Minecraft. So I'm not really sure if I want to do that because it would be a very niche Discord server, and I'm not really sure if anyone would really be interested in doing it, and I'm not really sure if I'd be totally interested in doing it either. If you are interested in that, I guess let me know if you are still here watching this. Pretty much gonna do it for me. I appreciate it, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one.